Welcome back to Biz Audio, everyone. My name is Max, and we are here finally Friday. We made it to the end of the week, and I've got a special surprise to end off the working week for everyone. I've just done an interview with the commercial radio and audio CEO, Lizzie Young. We had a great chat ranging from AI usage in radio to new trends that we've seen, and that's a really good interview. I'm really happy with the content we got in there. But just before I head off and play this interview, I've got a few tiny things in the radio industry just for today for your weekly wrap in the radio world. There's a few ARN departures. Of course, Daniel Underhill did depart ARN. He was head of content operations at ARN in Perth, and he departs the network. And over at the Australian Audio Awards, Mitch Churi and Bianca Dye are to be the MCs and hosts. Of course, that takes place in May at the Carriage Works in Sydney. But without further ado, here's an interview that I just did with Lizzie Young, the CEO of Commercial Radio and Audio. Welcome back to Biz Audio, and today we're joined by one of Australia's most influential media executives, Lizzie Young. Lizzie has worked her way up the corporate ladder with key roles at Southern Cross Stereo, Nine, and now Commercial Radio and Audio, where she is currently the Chief Executive Officer. And over the years, Lizzie has become known as a master of integration and a champion for the power of local content. It's my pleasure to welcome Lizzie to the podcast.
Hi, Max. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Welcome to Biz Audio, and I've got a few quick-fire questions to ask you. What's your favourite food?
Oh, gosh. Mexican.
Coffee order?
Oat flat white.
And ratings day. Do you love it or hate it?
I guess I have to say I love it, but probably, it's not the best.
Yeah.
It's not the best.
And one last question. Most underrated job in radio?
Oh, most underrated job in radio? Oh, that's really hard. That's not a quick fire question. I mean, I think the point of it is every role that exists is important in its own way. That's the thing about live content. It requires enormous teams, lots of different, thinking and getting things done. So, most underrated is really hard.
Awesome. That's a good answer then. I guess we can skip that one. But moving on to some more questions about your career. You've moved from major TV network Nine back to the world of radio. What was the most surprising cultural difference you noticed stepping back into the audio industry?
So I think culturally, audio has traditionally thought of itself as being a smaller entity, if you like, to television, and that I think does impact culture. And I was probably surprised that was maybe still the way we think of ourselves in the audio industry, whereas my view coming back was that audio has an incredible opportunity in front of it. Its audiences are growing. They have been incredibly resilient, and that the way people use audio has really changed because of how it's now distributed and the fact that it's available through so many devices and with you all the time. So culturally, I think there's sort of a differing, a moment in time for audio.
Yep.
That it's becoming, and it is, a really significant player in the media landscape, and podcasting has added to what broadcast radio already delivered. And I think as well, it's not just about the audio medium either. This is about an ecosystem. Yes, audio is at the center of it, but we do now have video content. We do now have social content. So we do have those things and those ways for people to consume it if they want, and for brands and clients to compete against video platforms. But sort of the mindset, I guess, has been that we are smaller when actually we're not anymore.
Yep. And commercial radio still reaches millions of Australians weekly. In a world of infinite digital choice, why do you think live and local is still important and winning?
It is absolutely down to the content, the community, the engagement that on-air presenters have with their audience, and how well integrated into the communities they are. Last week we had our annual industry audio showcase called Heard, and we heard from Gabby and Dan from Ace Radio about their local community in Victoria, and the work that they do in the community, and just how connected they are to their listeners.
Yep.
And that for me just really demonstrated the point. So it really is just about that connection that people have, and the fact that audio is a place that people go for information that they really need as well. So there's this reliance on it. So I think those things make it really sticky from an audience perspective, and that is why, to your point, we have really enormous numbers of listeners in commercial radio.
And for those outside the industry, how does the new CRA Audio ID change the way brands actually buy radio ads?
So the great thing about the Audio ID is it makes it easier for a brand to access all of the digital inventory that our members have. So it brings together the inventory from Nine, Nova, ARN, SCA, and any of the regional networks that they are representing. And it means that you can now run a campaign that reaches the audience across the networks. So it effectively optimizes for reach and frequency across a larger audience than a single network buy would enable.
And how important do you think authenticity is in today's radio landscape?
It's critical. It's critical, right? In a world where trust is literally critical to society and listeners and consumers, and how we all interact, I think that trust and authenticity has become really critical. And I think it's what radio and audio does so well. You intimately know the people that you're listening to, you trust them, and part of that as well is because we're highly regulated as an industry. We have standards that we have to meet, and that really supports that position of trust.
And how would you describe the future of Australian audio in just one word?
Exciting.
And you've seen radio evolve massively. What's changed the most since you first started?
Oh, well, I mean, that was a long time ago, Max. It was 27 years ago. I used to edit on reel to reel, which people who are listening to this, you probably don't even know what that is, because you would do all of your editing now on digital, but I used to slice tape.
Yep.
And stitch together two pieces of tape, which an interview had been recorded on.
Wow.
So if you wanted to remove a word, you would literally cut the tape, and then you would stick it back together.
Wow.
So lots of things have changed. The technology, is incredible. We used to, obviously be on AM and FM, radio. We're now on DAB. We're now on apps. We're now on people's smart speakers. We're, in your sunglasses, if that's
Yep.
how you want to listen to us. We're on your watch. So I think that the sort of the technology and the distribution of the content and the way that happens, that's probably the single biggest change.
And I'm speaking a bit more to evolution. How do you think AI is affecting radio and audio today?
Look, there's no doubt AI has productivity gains, the things that you can do to quicken up production processes, or, so many different ways in a media company. And I think we're at the point now of really just starting to grapple with what the full potential is. And I think there's definitely, interesting things to be developed there. I think what I'm really proud of is that in the recent ACMA code that we've just registered with them, it comes into effect from July 1, is that any use of AI will need to be disclosed in certain circumstances. So I think what's great about that is we know AI is here. The world is grappling with exactly how it's going to be used. But certainly if it's going to be presented, or it's going to be part of anything that is presented as content to a listener, then it's going to be disclosed as such so people know.
And where is AI actually making radio better, and where do we need to draw the line to keep it human?
Well, I think that sort of the interaction that radio has between either presenters who are talking or interacting with the audience, that live and local um, programming is where we want to keep it human.
Yeah.
But definitely where it's making things, better is in sort of back office production processes where
Yeah.
you can, you can quicken what you do because of the use of AI products.
Yeah. And based on some of the trends you've seen, do you think we're moving more digitally based on just online streaming and away from AM and FM?
Look, digital is definitely growing. Um, we would like it, and that's the way of the future. There's no question. But what is interesting is that for commercial audio and radio, our linear traditional broadcast audiences are also growing. And so, it's not that one is necessarily entirely taking over the other. We've got growth in both segments. Over time, of course, digital is going to continue to grow. And at some point, you would expect that broadcast will not. But happily for us, we're not there at this point yet.
And speaking a bit more to podcasting, does adding a video layer to podcasting risk losing that unique audio only intimacy?
I think ultimately people can choose, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to watch the video. I mean, I never watch a podcast with video. I like it being something that I do more on the move and while I'm walking or whatnot. So for me, it doesn't make sense to watch video podcasts. And if it is a video podcast, I'll just listen to the audio. But
And
I certainly think that it's still unique as a proposition. But for those who want video, then they absolutely can get it.
do you have a favorite or most memorable experience in the radio industry so far?
Favorite, most memorable experience. I've had lots of fun and exciting things. I mean, you probably can't go past the first time you hear yourself back on the radio.
Yeah.
Clearly that's not something I do anymore, ever. But I was probably pretty excited when I did my first ever Black Thunder cross as Dizzy Lizzie and heard myself on the radio at Brisbane's B105. That was, super fun. So I'd probably put that up there.
And beyond the smartphone, what's one piece of technology that you think will change the way we listen to audio in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, look, I'm pretty impressed by the wearable sunglasses. Um, I'm just debating which pair to buy myself, if I'm honest. I think it's pretty mind-blowing when you put them on. I don't know if you have or not tried them, but you put them on, you've got nothing in your ear, but you can hear the radio.
And
That's pretty cool.
commercial radio data shows that talent generates over 33 million social views weekly. Do you think radio hosts are now influencers who happen to have a microphone?
Well, the irony is I think we were the OG of influencers. So I think we've always been the influencers. Like that is how this started. Word of mouth, is a form of radio. It is what, this whole notion of trust that we talked about before. Radio announcers have been influencing people to do things, buy things, have opinions on things for decades. So my view is we are the OG of influencers. And happily for us, we can now, expand our coverage through, the social platforms. And, it's an impressive number. I think that we're generating that much content on those platforms.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this interview, Lizzie. I'm really excited to see Survey 1. I think the surveying period wraps up tomorrow, I believe. So it should be really interesting to see how it all pans out.
Yep, it'll be out in a couple of weeks.
Perfect.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you.